Israel-Palestine conflicts, which began in 1948 with the influx of Jewish people into Palestine due to anti-Semitism in the Western world, have led to the numerous smaller and larger violent clashes between the two sides. The recent events of October 7, in which 1,400 Israelis were killed in Hamas attacks, have brought to the situation to an extremely escalated point, resulting in general pre-proofing and increasing death toll among Palestinians, a majority of whom are civilians and children. The origin of the Palestine problem was an international issue, however, lie in events occurring towards the end of the First World War. This event led to a League of Nations decision to place Palestine under the administration of Great Britain as the mandatory power under the mandates system adopted by the League. In principle, the mandate was meant to be in the nature of transitory peace until Palestine attained the status of fully independent nation, a status provisionally recognized in the League's covenant, but in fact, the mandate's historical evolution did not result in the emergence of Palestine as an independent nation.
Assalamualaikum to Madam MARHAPIZAH. I'm going to present about the ancient history of the region. Many religions followers such as Jewish, Muslims and Christians claim that they have a special connection towards Palestine region. And ancient Israelites came to Palestine land, including the Kingdom of Israel and Judah, which was established under King David around 1000 before Common Era. Then the Palestine region has experienced conquered by many empires such as Babylonians, Persians, Romans, Mamluks and Ottoman. The Ottoman Empire obtained victory in the Battle of Mamluk in MURSHIDI 1516, then established its rule over Palestine. However, in 1918, the Ottoman Empire fell during World War I, which the victory was on British, has made Palestine's region encompassed from the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River. During the British occupation, the Zionists were relentlessly pressuring the British government so that they can establish a Jewish homeland on Palestine land. Despite that, they have just joined, they have just lived in the Palestine land. They claim that they need to establish it as their own homeland. Following that, British responded to the Zionist demands or to the Jewish demands by making a Balfour Declaration, which with the condition that nothing be done which might prejudice the rights of existing communities there. They cannot stole the rights of Palestinian communities. More than 2 decades of British rule, which in 1947, the United Nations suggested a plan to partition Palestine in 2 sections, which is an independent Jewish state and an independent Arab state. This happened due to the rapid increase of Jewish immigration to Palestine in 1882 that caused conflict on fighting for land, water, habitat, religions, rights and national identity, which caused brutal fighting. Palestinian Arabs actually are not keenly into the partition plan because they are representing the population's majority. So in hindsight, they are more eligible to obtain more regions. And not just that, Jewish immigrants or Zionists also provenly violated the Balfour Declaration, which prejudiced the rights of the existing Palestinian communities. After that, Israel declared themselves as an independent state in the year 1948, which after the withdrawal of Britain occupation from Palestine. Due to this, many Arab armies incensed and 1948 Arab-Israeli war occurred. Then in 1949, the war ended and Israel successfully controlled more than 2/3 of the West Bank, and Egypt on the other side took control of Gaza Strip. Despite hundreds of years of suffers by Palestine in Israeli occupation, there was also a long peace period which under the Ottoman rule. The Ottoman rule made Palestine distributed into multiple administrative provinces, marking 401 years of the stability of Ottoman rule. They used millet or religious community system as the administrative mechanism and talisman of societal harmony, which allows people to appoint their leaders, manage internal affairs, protect their language, maintain independent courts, and can freely practice religious beliefs. For example, Greek Orthodox, Catholic, Armenian, and Protestant denominations among Christians. This shows that, regardless of different religions, people in Palestine during Ottoman rule can practice their religions, and they also claim that their rights and freedom to practice their religions absolutely were secured.
Now we will take a look at the history of Zionist movement. The term Zionism comes from the word Zion, a Hebrew term for Jerusalem. Zionist movement referred to the movement seeking to create for the Jewish people a home in Palestine secured by public law. Officially, the modern Zionist movement began in the 19th century, but the fundamental ideas have been around for 100 years. Throughout these years, Jews have been facing anti-Semitism, which is hate or discrimination towards Jews because of their religion or race. For example, in Europe, Jewish people experience isolation. The church has blamed the Jews for Jesus' murder. Economic tension also happened because they were denied access to some jobs and property ownership by the rulers. The turning point for Zionism was because of Theodor Herzl's leadership. Political Zionism was founded upon his influential work, The Jewish State, which was published in 1896. He traveled to Paris in 1891 to work as a journalist for a newspaper based in Vienna. Like many Jews in Western Europe, Herzl first thought that converting all Jews to Christianity would be the most effective approach to combat anti-Semitism, but he was forced to reconsider this approach after seeing numerous anti-Semitic incidents in Russia and throughout Europe in the late 19th and early 20th century. The Dreyfus Affair incident, where a Jewish officer in the French army was wrongly accused of treason, acted as a push, motivating Theodor Herzl to write The Jewish State and assemble the First World Zionist Congress in 1897. The World Zionist Congress and the Zionist Organization were created in August 1897 when more than 200 Jews gathered in Basel, Switzerland. The Zionist movement was formally established on this date. Next, the key figures that lead to Jewish homeland establishment. Jewish homeland establishment closely linked to key figures and events. Firstly, the visionary aims of Theodor Herzl had a major role in the late 19th century establishment of the idea of a Jewish state. The Zionist movement, which promoted the creation of a Jewish state, was led by journalist and political activist Herzl of Vienna. Secondly, in 1917, something very big happened, which was the Balfour Declaration. This was considered an event in the establishment of Jewish homeland. In 1917, Britain made a public pledge to build a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, which is known as the Balfour Declaration. It was created during World War I, and following the fall of the Ottoman Empire, it became a part of the British Mandate for Palestine. A barely described form of colonialism and occupation, the so-called Mandate system was established by the Allied forces. The British started to make it easier for European Jews to immigrate to Palestine at the beginning of the Mandate. The percentage of Jews increased from 9% to over 27% of the total population between 1922 and 1935. Transforming the ideal into reality was largely the responsibility of David Ben-Gurion, the head of the Jewish community in Palestine and eventually its first prime minister. Ben-Gurion proclaimed the creation of the State of Israel on May 14, 1948.
In the midst of World War I, a significant letter emerged, altering the course of history. The Balfour Declaration, crafted by British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour in 1917, endorsed the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. While a pivotal moment for the Zionist movement, it also stirred controversy due to its silence on the rights of Palestinian Arabs. The Balfour Declaration is significant because it was the first time a major world power had publicly declared support for a Jewish homeland in Palestine. The declaration was seen as a major victory for the Zionist movement, which had been advocating for a Jewish homeland in Palestine for decades. Fast forward to 1947, as the British mandate in Palestine concluded, the United Nations assumed control. The Balfour Declaration became a cornerstone in international law, garnering support from various nations. On 14 May 1948, the dream of a Jewish homeland materialized with the declaration of the State of Israel. However, this historic moment marked the commencement of a complex era with paramilitary groups trained by the British displacing a significant numbers of Palestinians. The legacy of the Balfour Declaration endures, casting a profound influence on the Middle East. The Balfour Declaration, born amidst the chaos of war, remains a reminder of the far-reaching consequences of pivotal decisions. In 1948, a significant conflict unfolded in the Middle East, leaving an indelible mark on the region's history. The Arab-Israel War, rooted in geopolitical tensions over the United Nations partition of Palestine, stands as a crucial moment in the quest for sovereignty. The origins of this conflict lie in a long-standing dispute over the ownership of Palestine, a territory under British rule since 1917. On 15 May 1948, hostilities erupted following the British withdrawal from Palestine. The conflict spanned multiple fronts, from the Sinai Peninsula to the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The Israel Defense Forces successfully secured borders, gaining control over a substantial portion of land designated for the Arab state according to the UN partition plan. The war concluded with armistice agreements, yet the underlying issues persisted. A significant number of Palestinian Arabs faced forced displacement from their homes. The Arab-Israel conflict, deeply rooted in historical factors like the Zionist movement, the British mandate, and the displacement of Palestinian disagreement, persists over exact number, intensifying the ongoing conflict between Arabs and Jews. While advantages for Israel, this expansion heightened animosity among Arabs who oppose Israel's territorial claims.
Assalamualaikum. Today I'm going to present about the Six-Day War, which is also known as 1967 War. This war were between Israel, Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. To be noted, in this war, Israel gained the victory, which gave huge impact to the political landscape of the Arab-Israel nowadays. So, as we know, the relationship of Arab-Israel is complex, and there is many causes that triggered this war to happen. Since Israel was announced as a country in 1948, every Arab neighbor around Israel is not recognized them as a country, and they had continuous issue with them. For example, the border struggle with Syria and the water right dispute with Jordan. But the main issue that makes Israel attack Arab allies is when Egypt once again closed its Straits of Sinai and blocked Israeli ships from entering the Gulf of Aqaba. Before I present about the timeline of this war, I would like to explain why the Strait of Sinai and the Gulf of Aqaba is important to Israel. It is because this sea is the only way that connects them with Asia and Africa. So if this strait is closed, this means the economy between Asia and Africa got disrupted. So there is why destruction of their economy. On the second day, Jordan misled by false information about Egypt's victory. They want to engage Israel in Western Jerusalem, but sadly faced defeat. By the third day, Israel had seized key territories including the Western Wall, Bethlehem, Hebron, and Jericho, marking a triumph over Jordan. The fourth day witnessed another confrontation with Egyptian force, forcing them to retreat to Western Sinai before a ceasefire was declared. The defeat led to the resignation of Egypt President Abdul Nasser. On the final day, Israel successfully defeated Syrian troops and occupied the Golden Heights before announcing a ceasefire. The war was concluded with Israel gaining a control over strategic territories and reshaping the geopolitical landscape in this region. This war led to a significant impact on the regional balance of power. Firstly, Palestine faced an increasement of refugees because of this war. Many of them need to be displaced into another country like Jordan, Syria, and more. Secondly, the Egyptian president had to accept the UN resolution 242 and make the other Arab country met, and until now, their relationship is still intense. Thirdly, Jordan. Their relationship with Palestine become more complex as they receive a substantial refugees. Not only that, the existence of Palestinian Liberation Organization (PLO), which led many jihadist movements to join them, and this situation are threatening to Jordan's sovereignty. Because of this, Jordan attacked PLO and killed 1,000 of Palestinians. This incident is called Black September. Syria leader, which is Hafiz Assad, were called as selfish because they want to gain leadership in this region instead of helping Palestine. After that, US strengthened their relationship with Israel because they consider it as a great power in this region. They help each other until nowadays. Different with the USSR, they had to bear great loss because of Arab ally lost to Israel. This war also made their influence in this region also decrease. Three major challenges persist in the Israel-Palestine conflict. First, Israel construction of illegal settlement on Palestinian lands despite repeated warning from the UN has fueled ongoing conflicts. Unfortunately, Israel has not faced consequences for violating the international law. The third issue is about security worries in both Palestine and Israel. In Israel, they are afraid of attack from Palestinian jihadists and political groups. In Palestine, people are upset because Israel took their home, and this has led to the rise of political and jihadist movement. Palestinians often face attack from Israel force, even if they haven't done anything. This security situation has brought in international involvement, making it harder to find a political solution the Israel and Palestine problem.
Next is the peace effort to solve this conflict. According to United Nations UN General Assembly on 28 October 2023, UN set an emergency special session to resume, with dozens of countries still to speak out on the current crisis over Gaza, with a large majority of member states voting for a humanitarian truce to end fighting between Israeli force and Hamas. When the UN security is unable to shoulder its primary responsibility to maintain the international peace and security, as has thus far has been discussed following on 7 October outbreak of the latest Israel-Palestine crisis, the General Assembly can consider the matter immediately in an emergency special session and recommend to its member collective measure to maintain or restore international peace and security as stipulated in the Assembly's Uniting for Peace resolution of 3 November 1950. This special session, there were many things highlighted, which are UAE and China call for the emergency meeting after Israel expand its ground operation into Gaza over the weekend. Philip Lazzarini, head of UNRWA, briefed ambassadors on dire humanitarian situation in the Revenge Enclave, stressing women and children cannot be collateral damage. Also, UNICEF Chief Catherine Russell outlined the impact on children on both sides who are experiencing terrible trauma, the consequences of which could last a lifetime. And Lisa Doughton, Senior UN Humanitarian Official from OCHA, underscored the need of pause in the fighting to provide respite for desperate civilians living under unimaginably traumatic condition. Also, according to Berita Harian, Hamas is willing to continue a 4-day ceasefire and more Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinians. The development was informed to the source of Today, who also held a meeting of the Hamas said mediator trying to stop this conflict. Source said Hamas today sent a mediator who is willing to continue the ceasefire for 4 days. Through the regulation, he said, it will be able to carry out the Israeli hostage in addition to the parties and other resistant movements during the period in question, complying with the condition of the existing ceasefire. Also, a policy brief by Abdel Haq Basso stated that several solutions can be implemented. First, a political certainty in the fog of war, which is the end of the reach of Benjamin Netanyahu, the religious extremist wings that support him. Benjamin Netanyahu's plan to seize the reins of justice and judiciary from executive branch of government had inflamed the Israeli street and led into the protest even in the ranks of military. The extreme right, which support Netanyahu, encouraged him to commit the worst abuses against the Palestinian population and to do everything in his power to ensure that there will be never a Palestinian state. In addition, Netanyahu has been the subject of 4 judicial investigations that have led to the indictment for corruption, fraud and breach of trust. And lastly, probable relaunch of the process to establish a Palestinian state for the last time. The search for a peace solution will find a propitious framework and fertile ground with Israel and Palestinian authorities inclined to peace. Today, international community seems more convinced than ever that such a solution can be a two-state solution. International public opinion seems more mobilized than ever to support the right of the Palestinian people to establish their independent state with east of Jerusalem as its capital. In all the world's capital, from Asia to Latin America, from the US to Australia and Wales as in Europe, demonstrate chant slogans calling for the Palestinian right to an independent state.
The Israel-Palestinian conflict originated in the late 19th century, with nationalist movements among Jews and Arabs seeking sovereignty in the Middle East. Palestine's history includes various rulers, with the Ottoman Empire providing a period of peace. The Zionist movement, led by Theodor Herzl, fueled the conflict, and British support for Jewish migration heightened tensions. The unresolved conflict, marked by events like the Six-Day War and ongoing issues, remain a complex and concerning challenge for the region and the international community.